What do Falcons do? Rise up. Welcome to RiseUpRXNs, show we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, the Golden Hard Dog, and a lifelong sports fan. And guys, it's looking like Bill Belichick is going to be the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, everything I have seen has the fan base pretty well split on this topic. There are some people that think that the eliteness of Belichick over the course of his entire career and tenure and the culture change that he will bring is for the best. There's others of us, and I'm more in this camp, that think he's a guy who's just trying to get that most career wins record, and the second he does that, he's gone. Belichick is going to be 72 years old in April this year. He'll be 72 years old starting next season. It would put him at one of, if not the oldest head coach in the NFL. And certainly he is going to try and go somewhere where he can beat the record to hold the most wins ever by an NFL coach. And it's a record that he probably alone is the guy that can get at this point in time. But that said, we've interviewed a lot of people. We have interviewed Jim Harbaugh. We've interviewed a handful of other guys. I think we've interviewed Steve Wilkes, Brian Johnson, not Ben Johnson, but Brian Johnson. There's a handful of guys that we've interviewed, and Belichick is the first to come back for a second. And every single article I am seeing says that we should expect him to be the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Guys, Sure, we're going to get a new head coach. We're going to get a guy who has a winning culture. And we're going to get the guy who, quite frankly, is the reason that we have been in such a freaking funk for the last 6 years. And maybe by bringing him in, we'll get rid of whatever voodoo magic he cast over the Falcons, he and Tom Brady. Maybe we'll get rid of that. There's talk that Kirk Cousins would like to maybe play with Bill Belichick. So if he comes in, perhaps we get Kirk Cousins and we solve the quarterback issue. Or maybe we look to draft Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix Jr. in the draft. If we get Kirk Cousins, we don't have to spend that pick on a quarterback, and we can build talent around Kirk to try and build for the future. We need somebody that knows how to use Kyle Pitts. Belichick certainly has a career of using tight ends. Look at Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski. These are guys that made impacts on his teams. But he also makes really weird decisions with personnel. And hopefully he will not be brought in with any sort of decision-making capacity from a personnel standpoint other than just asking for guys to try and go for. Because if he drafts a wide receiver again, my God, it will be bad. We will waste a draft pick if we allow him to do that. But my biggest thing here is that Belichick is ultimately a short-term answer to a long-term problem. I would like to have a coach with the Falcons that'll be here for 5, 6, 7, 10 years or more if he turns out to be a winning guy. I want that for the Falcons, and Belichick ain't it. Belichick is going to be here for a few years, just enough time to get his record, and then he's gone. Real quick, let's talk about Belichick since Brady left, because who made who, I don't know. I think they were codependent with one another. But Belichick, the year that Tom Brady left in 2020, went 7-9, was picking, I think, 15th or 16th overall. Drafted Mac Jones. The next year, Mac Jones, 2021, he helps lead them to a second-place finish in the AFC East and a playoff berth where they got absolutely murdered by the Buffalo Bills. And then he's been 8-9 and 4-13 the 2 years since. But everybody wants to point to that 2021 season and say that, hey, he was actually really good that year. Well, I mean, let's talk about that season real quick. Let's talk about the teams that he beat in 2021 with a rookie quarterback to make it into the playoffs. They beat the New York Jets twice with Zach Wilson at quarterback. I think he was a rookie at that point. So rookie Zach Wilson, not a good quarterback. You had the tanking Houston Texans, who were bad at that point. Deshaun Watson wasn't playing. They went, I think, 4-13 that year, so beat them. He beat the LA Chargers, who had a winning record, but they were Brandon Staley-led, and we just know that that's not a good Chargers team. They've been overhyped for years because of him and his leadership. He had the Carolina Panthers, who ended up, I think, at 6-11 that year. He had the Cleveland Browns, who ended up being bad. You had the Atlanta Falcons. We were awful in 2021. You have the Tennessee Titans, who did win their division and ended up making it to the AFC Championship, so they were a winning team. You have the Buffalo Bills, who he beat only throwing 3 passes in a cold game, and he beat them by running the ball at 14-10. He also beat the Jacksonville Jaguars in the tank for 2 a year. So I don't know who we're excited to see him beat. He lost to the Colts, the Bills. He lost later on. He lost to the Dolphins twice. Lost to the Saints, the Bucks, the Cowboys. He didn't really play. He didn't beat teams that had an over 500 record. He only beat 3 teams in an entire year that had over 500. And the subsequent years where he's had harder schedules, he's failed to make the playoffs and it's got progressively worse. He ruined Mac Jones as a quarterback prospect. And I just don't know that he's the answer. I really think that he just has some weird relationship with Arthur Blank because they're both old dogs in this game and they're both have been around the NFL for a very long time. He has that connection, but I really wish we were going with a younger blood or maybe a different type of head coach. I am all on the Jim Harbaugh train if we can get him. I think he's going to go to LA because he likes California. All signs are pointing there. But if there was one thing I would want to change right now, I don't want Bill Belichick. If he becomes our head coach and wins, I will be happy to admit that I'm wrong. I just really don't think that I am. I think we're still not going to be a good team under him. I think we're still going to have problems. I think he could potentially coach us up, and we would have won games this year if he was with us. But I just look at our schedule the next 2 years, and I think about, God, if he keeps coaching and running plays the way he has recently, I mean, is he really going to feature Bijan Robinson? He doesn't feature backs in his offense, and we need to have a feature back. We already had that problem with somebody not knowing how to use the talent that he had, and Bill Belichick is the epitome of give it to the hot hand, of give it to the guy who doesn't fumble. If you make a mistake, you're on the bench. I don't care how much of a superstar you are. It's a problem for us. We need somebody who understands how to use our weapons and to continue featuring them even if they make a mistake. That has never been the Patriot way of playing football under Bill Belichick. And if he gets chosen for the Falcons, we're going to end up in the same problem that we did with Arthur Smith. I have nothing against Bill Belichick. I think he is a defensive mastermind and a genius. I just think that his time has come and gone. I want him to get his wins. I think he deserves to get the most wins record, having the most Super Bowls already. He does deserve to get that record with somebody. Wasn't going to be the Patriots, but I think it needs to be away from Atlanta. I don't want him to get it here because I don't think he can win a Super Bowl with us. I don't think he is going to take us beyond a wild card berth at best. And not even hosting a wild card berth. I don't think we'll win the division with him as our head coach. I just am really upset to see that this is likely where we're going. Nobody in the Falcons front office, nobody in the upper echelon is going to see this. But other Falcons fans might. I know it's a divisive topic, and a lot of people will say Bill Belichick, incredibly winning coach, guy who brings a different mentality to the locker room and a different mentality to his team. Maybe getting away from New England will have the same effect that it did for Tom Brady, but I think the reason that Tom Brady, best NFL quarterback of all time, I think the reason that he was having so much fun and doing so well in his first year in Tampa Bay is because he got away from Bill Belichick and got away from the Patriot way of doing football. The Patriot way of doing football has not won since Tom Brady was in his prime. And I just don't think that that's going to work for the Falcons. But thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. If you feel like commiserating with me down below, I would love to hear your thoughts on the Falcons coaching search. It looks like we may have an answer by early next week. We might even have an answer by the end of today. But thank you, and as always, rise up.